And away we go. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, wherever you happen to be in the world today. Welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. It is time once again for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having some discussion about what's going on in the world today. We'll take a look at some clips from the news, share a little bit of dialogue with those of you who are able to join us for the live portion. And if you happen to be listening anywhere else and you wanted to join the live portion, you can find us Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, most of the time, on YouTube at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat, and you can find me on Rumble, Coffee Talk 2 with the number 2, as well as fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta, as we get ready to jump off. I've got Granny Smith in the room with me, but she's not close, so you can't see her. I'll go ahead and say hello to some of the people that are chiming in so far. See Jeff is with us today. Jimmy, Caps, JJ, Dragon, Tuck, Helter, Kimberly, and Puck. And hello to everyone else who might be listening and not able or not wanting to chime in for whatever reason. That's cool. And we'll jump in here in a minute and jump into the EU and get onto the subject of the thumbnail. Pick it on the EU again. Why not? Have you got your taxes done? Are you in the United States? Have you got your taxes done? Tomorrow is the deadline. Tomorrow is the dreaded deadline for tax season. And New York Patriot is here. I just did mine this morning. I just did mine this morning. Figure if you're going to force me, you can wait till the last possible second. It's just what I do because I hate it. I absolutely despise it. I've talked about that at length. One of the agencies that I've had personal experience with that I despise the most, IRS, because I found them to be dishonest and untrustworthy in my personal experience. Again, I've talked about that at length. I found them to be dishonest and untrustworthy on more than one occasion. And so I'm like, ugh, I do not want to do this. Besides which, they know everything anyways. I'm not telling them anything they don't know. So why are you asking? So you can rub my face in it? Okay. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, I wait till the last possible second, if at all possible. And then, it's immediate. I submit it within 30 minutes. I've got a response that they're accepted. So it's not like I missed anything. I don't have a lot of paperwork to mill through. See, Paul and Monkey have joined us here today. Glad you could make it to the live portion. So hopefully everybody else doesn't have as hard of a time as I do with the Internal Revenue Service. Be nice to see them go away and get replaced by the External Revenue Service, which is up and coming here. JJ say that's not so bad. My father would often drive down to the post office around 11 p.m. on April 15th to send them. Now that's last minute. No kidding. And Johnny Future is here. And yeah, it's insulting. You're extorting money from me. An agency that I have personal experience with that has taught me that you can't be trusted. And every year I got to go through this at the same time. Every year. No, I don't think so. Also, for those of you who are keeping track, on Prepper University, new video went up this morning. New video went up on Prepper University this morning showing some of the stuff that I've picked up actually at a local flea market. Really cheap, brand new prepping equipment. I got a couple of pieces laying here. Like we got a couple of these. These are like MyFac medical kits. We found 2 of these. These are brand new, never been opened. These are really expensive. Look up MyFac. Seriously. Those things are crazy expensive. And some knives. This one, I asked anybody if they knew what model this is. This is a genuine Microtech. These are very expensive. And this is brand new. just to, as an example. But yeah, I've got the new video up on Prepper University this morning. Puck says they heard that Tausi TV YouTube channel that asking someone to speak English in England is a hate crime. Really? Really? Maybe it's just someone with a bad accent, because that you can tell what part of the UK they're from by their accent. Some of it's hard to follow. That wouldn't surprise me though, because that's how bad it's gotten there. Anyways, so yeah, if you have Prepper University, and that's at Prepper University, if you're on that channel. If you're not, please do consider subscribing, and I'll put that. That's at Prepper University. And I just, again, new video went up there this morning as we get ready to jump off here. I'm going to start with something stupid before we get to the thumbnail. I'm going to start with something stupid because this sort of thing just annoys me. And this is a Jeff Bezos thing. This is a Jeff Bezos thing. And if you know the direction that Bezos has taken Amazon, it's extremely woke. And this ties in with it. More fake history coming right up. And this is an independent article, okay? Katy Perry takes last-minute astronaut lessons before rocket to space. And I could really care less. The photograph really kind of said it all. It looks like it's a setup for a really bad television show, because he's putting a bunch of they're trying to make history with the all-female crew, but it's a pre-programmed rocket. They don't have to do anything. They're just going to sit on it. Who gives a shit? Singer Katy Perry is undertaking final preparations before she meets up with an all-female crew into space. The crew made up of Perry, former NASA rocket scientist Aisha Bowe, civil rights activist Amanda Nguyen, film producer Carrie Ann Flynn, and journalist Lauren Sanchez managed to get into some last-minute astronaut lessons in Texas on Sunday, according to photos shared online by Blue Origin. It'll be the first female-only mission in more than 6 decades, and that really isn't fair, because I want to say 1965, was it? A female cosmonaut did a solo revolution, and that's what they're counting as an all-female mission. If it's an all-female mission, it shouldn't matter, but I would like to at least see qualified people. There's only one person on there that even has an attachment to NASA. Everybody else is all, you saw a journalist, a director, a singer. This is a bullshit brigade, so they can pretend to make history. Oh, look, it's all females. And again, it's pre-programmed. They don't need training. They just need to make sure they're not going to get too sick on takeoff, because there's a lot of G-force to break the Earth's atmosphere. I mean, they put William Shatner in space, his 96-year-old behind. It's, again, we're not, this isn't the 60s. There aren't 5,000 dials that some guy has to memorize in order to operate this ship. They're putting a bunch of celebrities in space. They're going to orbit them and bring them back. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. But they always want to pretend like this is history. And again, just because something is history technically doesn't mean it's historic. Says Perry also shared some snaps of her own vowing to put the ass in astronaut in the coming hours in a post with Mrs. Sanchez. Cute. You see what you get here? The two can be seen clad in blue jumpsuits, especially made by Mrs. Sanchez for the mission. Earlier on Sunday, Perry said she'd been given confirmation her journey aboard the rocket on April 14th was written in the stars. Oh, please. Earlier this week, Perry told the Associated Press she plans to go boldly where other women have rarely gone before. It's too bad you're not actually contributing anything. Scott says, as a non-American, your tax system confused me. Here in Ireland, unless you're self-employed or a business owner, all our taxes are paid on the day we get paid. But America seems to like auditing people. That's essentially what it is. Yeah, it comes right out of your check, state and federal. Everything that you would have to deal with, it comes automatically out of your check. But there's a mini audit that's done every year by April 14th, unless you qualify for an extension. And all they do is verify what they already knew. It's not as entailed as it used to be because everything's electronic now. But it's bullshit that we have to do it. It's just ridiculous. And I see that Bob Smith has joined us. JJ says that Katy Perry is a space cadet, literally, of course. Now, literally, of course. And Raccoon has joined us. Puck makes the point. He says it was nothing more than a country fair ride. They reached suborbital altitude and returned in 10 minutes. Exactly. But we gotta act like this is making history somehow. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything. And I love that Bezos' ship looks like a phallus. So he got a crew of female astronauts to ride the world's biggest phallus into suborbit. Gotcha. Gotcha. And there you go. And Cap says it's just a ride. Exactly. New York Patriot has a good tax guy. He usually gets a good amount back, although he'd prefer not to have to worry about doing taxes every year. Lucky says, are they bringing back Stanley Kubrick? I don't know about that. I don't know about that. James Doohan's ashes are floating around up there too, right? Or is that Gene Rod? I know Gene Roddenberry's ashes are in space. Now, this pertains more specifically to the thumbnail here. But again, I'm just, I'm tired of them trying to make any kind of trivial history possible and then pretending that it's historic. Oh, this is groundbreaking. Women in space. Please. Just because it's an all-female crew, but they're not really a crew. It's all female passengers on a pre-programmed flight. They're not doing anything. Wouldn't it be something if it malfunctioned, they were stuck in orbit, and then X had to rescue them? Wouldn't that be something? I tell you what. Now here comes your thumbnail, and it's from the Irish Star. Donald Trump warned that the winds are moving after EU makes huge China decision. Did they really? Did they really? Well, I don't know. Let's see. Can you trust the Irish Star? Can you trust any mainstream media? Europe appears to be shifting its gaze eastward, seeking assistance from China rather than the U.S. as leaders pursue trade agreements with the Asian giant instead of the American President Donald Trump, whose stance towards the Chinese was roasted by U.S. talk show host Jimmy Kimmel. Oh, God, no, not Jimmy Kimmel. Anything but that. I'm just so shocked that Jimmy Kimmel roasted any Republican at all or did any political commentary. You know, it makes me sick because it reminds me of what Johnny Carson said about his position on politics. Okay? His position on politics, because he was asked in an interview, I'm sure I've mentioned this before, he was asked in an interview years ago when he was still on the Carson show, when he was still hosting the Tonight Show officially. How come you never really, he says, you make a political joke now and then, but how come you don't really lean on that? And he said, because it would be irresponsible for a celebrity in my position to try to impose my political or social viewpoints on people. I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but that's the gist of it. Okay? Not anymore. There hasn't been a halfway decent late night show on since Carson retired. And they all pander. They all pander. And Jimmy Kimmel is no exception. Oh, Jimmy Kimmel roasted Donald Trump. He's got a career centered around that. Back to the article here. Euronews reveals that following President Trump's infamous reciprocal tariffs speech at the White House earlier this month, the first call made by European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen was to China, which has promised to fight until the end against Trump's tariffs as the superpower levied their own tariffs in response. China did, everybody else back down because China is trying to play chicken with this. They're going to lose. And we can get into that in a minute. The European Commission, who recently issued Trump a stark warning over his economic policies, I'm sure he's worried. How much stuff are we importing from Europe? Issued an official statement saying in response, von der Leyen stressed the responsibility of Europe and China as two of the world's largest markets to supporting a strong reformed trading system, free, fair, and founded on a level playing field. It wasn't a level playing field. That was the problem. And Flute Man has joined us. And Peter says maybe it's a way to get rid of his fiance. Oh, okay. Let me see. Nature Nerd says that machines and technology and machines have taken away more jobs than China, then shouldn't it be cheaper to manufacture goods in the U.S. than China and Vietnam, where the U.S. has good paying jobs? At the labors they're paying, it's still cheaper. Nike, for example, is not interested in moving. I think they're in Vietnam. Nike, is that correct? I'm trying to remember. It currently costs Nike about $3 a pair to have them hand sew it down there. A machine couldn't do it that cheap. But then those people are getting paid 15 cents an hour in their country. It's essentially real slave labor. So why would Nike move? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think it's Vietnam. Tuck says, I could easily forget Kimmel ever existed if he stopped talking about politics. I've never been interested in any of his work. Johnny said, instead of moving to another country, move to space and stay there. Yeah, they should. They should. And Kimberly confirms it is Vietnam. Okay. Like I said, I can't remember everything. I try because I'm talking off the top of my head. I read the stories, but I don't have a teleprompter. I don't have people writing this, whatever. The thing is, and that's Johnny's point there, I'll put it up. They have two choices. If they keep raising their tariffs, because everybody else has gotten a suspension while they negotiate, because everybody wants to negotiate but China, and China thinks they got us because most of our consumer goods are coming from China. Now, if they raise their tariffs again in response, okay, to what Trump did, which doesn't matter to us because we don't import hardly anything to China. We export everything from China to the United States. So they can keep raising their prices, okay? They have two choices. Raise your prices until the factories go somewhere else, because any of these other Asian countries that want to play ball, or manufacturing brought right back to the United States, will replace them, all right? Or they can just cooperate with Trump and then put the prices back where they were. That's their only two real options. And because of the way the culture is, they're going to try to play chicken with Trump. They're going to try to play chicken with Trump, and it's not going to work because he knows he's got them by the cojones. Oh, you know what? Taiwan can manufacture it. Vietnam can manufacture it. Laos can manufacture it. Bangladesh has factories. All of those Asian countries can do it for the same price. How much you want to bet stuff will get transferred there? All that consumer garbage that we buy that we don't need. Same goes for Europe. Europe, and this is the point of the thumbnail here, acting like, oh, well, we'll start working with China instead of the U.S. and we'll back China-made goods. You already are. You have been for 3 decades. You're as much of a sellout in Europe as United States manufacturing is, importing all of your consumer goods from Asian countries, including China, mostly China for the last 30 years at least. Don't act like that's brand new. Oh, we will support China now because of you weren't importing anything from the United States. What were you importing from America? Anything? I couldn't imagine. I couldn't imagine. JJ says, and for decades, these knuckleheads took advantage of the U.S. Now the U.S. is trying to set things back to a more fair level. It makes us the bad guys. Indeed. Kimberly, yeah, $3 to make shoes. They sell them for 100 and up. Some of those shoes, how expensive are they retail? But I believe it's about $3 a pair to have them hand sewn in Vietnam, because the money valuation is different. I say to you 15 cents an hour or 19 cents an hour or however much they get paid, but to them it's a living wage. And Nike knows it. So it's, even if you have machines here that were doing it, it's still cheaper to have manual labor over there. But it's a fight that China cannot ultimately win. Raise your prices until everybody moves their factory, or go back to where you were and just cooperate for a change. They're sitting on a huge economic bubble, or a real estate bubble more specifically, because they built all those, we talked about them many times, what they call the ghost cities, right? Cities that could house millions of people. Nobody's there because nobody will move to them. They're fine right where they are. They don't care. And so they have a massive real estate market, and those buildings are falling apart without maintenance. If you've got a city that can contain 2.5 million people, and there's only like less than 10,000 people living there, the buildings are going to start falling down. That infrastructure needs regular maintenance. Nobody's there to do it. Plus the economic bubble, we are 36 trillion in debt, but number 2 on that list is China. They can't afford to lose the money. They can play games if they want to. They'll lose. And we are the biggest purchaser of Chinese consumer goods. And again, the stuff that we buy, it's garbage. We don't need it. Do you really need all that stuff? Do you need 14 pairs of sneakers or 80 pairs of jeans? This is what people do, or all the stupid little knickknacks around your house. People like to accumulate things, and they get caught up in this whole concept of value being reflected by what you possess, and trying to look like they have a lot. Look at Temu's advertising from China. Temu's advertising, shop like a billionaire. Why is that? Because in their eyes, Westerners are caught up in that whole keeping up with the Joneses attitude. They're right. A lot of them are. Luke Man says in other YouTube channels, Trump's tariffs is wrecking China's economy. Do you agree, or are they exaggerating? As far as wrecking their economy, I would say not wrecking it yet, but it's hurting them. It's hurting them. And I'll pull up the debt clock, the world debt clock here in a moment, so I can show you what I'm talking about. They are number 2 in the world for highest debt. They can't afford to deal with it. Nature Nerd says, I think these people are gaslighting America, saying we shouldn't or can't bring back jobs to America. But it's already been happening. Before the tariffs even went into place, a lot of companies, especially auto manufacturers, computer manufacturers, chip manufacturers, phone manufacturers like Apple, saw the writing on the wall and were like, yeah, okay, you know what, we'll recontract in America. Flukeman says other countries are less likely to manufacture fake and super cheap products. A lot of counterfeits come out of China. That is true. A lot of counterfeits and a lot of really poor quality merchandise comes out of China, and they know it. And they have really screwed us over with things in the past, like the drywall. If you recall, we were importing drywall for China, and it turned out to be radioactive. It was contaminated. It was making people sick. I mean, that they counterfeit. They do the cheapest possible with everything that they do, and you can't trust it. You can't trust it. Let me pull up that world debt clock so that I can again, back up some of what I'm talking about here. So I don't want to just run my mouth. Let me see, world debt clock, and you're going to see America, the United States, and then I think Japan is in third place for world total debt. USA is first, China will be second, and then Japan, I believe, is third. JJ says this may be why China's worked so hard to militarize the South China Seas. If they lose their manufacturing position, I bet the shipping lanes get closed off. Yeah, they've been messing with people out there. The Philippines and Taiwan, they've been screwing with them for decades. And I don't think they want to get into it with the Philippines. It's a small island chain, but man, they're heavily populated and they're ruthless. Peter says they shipped the steel from the Twin Towers to China. I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I think you're actually right because, again, what put all of the manufacturing in China in the first place was the American steel union workers' strikes that took place in the late 50s and the early to mid 60s. I think there were three. Is that right? Three separate strikes. And when the companies were reaching out, God, we need steel, found out they could get it cheaper imported from China than having it manufactured right in the United States with what the steel industry wanted on their contracts. And then when they started bringing the steel in, they said, well, shit, what else can we bring in? What else can be imported? And that's what started crippling our economy. It starts right here with a modernized American unions. Modernized American unions. Let me pull that world debt clock up here, so I can so I can demonstrate what I'm talking about. Puck says we need duplicity. There shouldn't be one widget used here that 100% was manufactured overseas. Yeah, and also if you're completely dependent on something like that for another country and you get cut off, you're screwed. And we should have learned that we should have learned that lesson during the oil crisis in the 70s, when we had people lined up for blocks in line for like 2+ hours to get rationed gasoline at local gas stations. That should have taught this government a very valuable lesson then. Patriot says, don't know if anyone has seen the videos of some of those the ghost cities, but they show that some of the construction is made out of cardboard, or just about. Yeah, it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. I don't know if it's necessarily cardboard, but the construction's very shoddy. Okay, there's your debt clock. Okay, on the top one, there's the U.S. $36 trillion, almost damn near 37. 36,724,000,000. The clock has slowed down from the Biden administration, who put 11 trillion on this. It was like 24 and a half, almost 25 when he took office, and now look. China is number 2, 16 trillion and change. And it's ticking off at about the same speed as ours. And then Japan is in third place there with 12 trillion, which is ridiculous. I don't understand that. But yeah, China has about half of our debt, literally, but we are their main purchaser again of consumer goods. If for whatever reason that's disrupted, they're in a lot of trouble. Because then look at their gross domestic product. Okay, their gross domestic product is almost half what ours is. To be in that much debt with about 5 times our population. So if they can't export to one of their major one of their major buyers, which is the United States market, for any great length of time, that's going to fall apart quick. That's going to fall apart really quickly. Nature Nerd says everything is expensive in the U.S. because we have to supply chains and manufacturing in the U.S. If we did have supply chains, it would get cheaper. Puck says we need to decouple from red China. Why are we trading with perceived enemy to start with? True. I didn't vote for Apple to run this country. And see also Temu. Yeah. Tuck says poisonous pet food. I remember that when we were importing. I think we still import some pet food from there, don't we? But yeah, there was toxic pet food. It had like lead in it or something, right? Or arsenic. I don't recall. Kimberly says call centers have a lot of U.S. companies outsourcing to other countries because the pay is lower. That's true. A lot of call centers are located in India or Pakistan. And in those countries, it's a good paying job, actually, in particular India, because every citizen in India also speaks English. It's a throwback to when the British Empire was in charge of the country. And as a result, they all speak English in varying degrees. Some of them, the English is very clear. Some of them, it's very muddied. It's hard to understand their accent. But if you have a clear speaking English accent, you get a phone center job in India, and it's a really good job for them in their economy. But it's still cheaper than if we do it here. It's still cheaper. It's still cheaper than if we do it here. But yeah, as you can see, there's a lot telling there. Comparing the national debt to their gross domestic product in China, our gross domestic product is a lot higher, even though our debt is like literally double China's. Ours is a lot higher. And again, they have 5 times the population. So if they were cut off from one of their major exports, i.e. the United States, there's a good chance they could lose like at least 50% of their GDP or 50% of their income from overseas industry, overseas manufacturing. JJ says the Union won the Civil War due to industry. Allies won World War II because of industry. We're at a disadvantage now in a time of war since we've lost most of our manufacturing capacity. Sven said we should tell China to eat the debt for allowing Fauci to make the virus. Oh my God. Oh no. And Flukeman surprised they didn't force people into the ghost cities. I know it's not easy to force tens or hundreds of thousands, especially with today's technology. However, I'm still surprised. I think the logistics of that was just too much. I think the logistics of that was just too much for China to manage. Rounding up, and I've talked about this before, organized Chinese law enforcement was able to round up nearly 50,000 people in one day to interrogate them over triads. But trying to move around populations of millions of people all at once like that with constant resistance is extremely difficult. And if pushed too hard, they will resist. As you recall, in Hong Kong, there have been many attempts to crack down on the Hong Kong government, which still considers itself separate. And they'll fight by any means necessary. Their riot police were getting taken down by bows and arrows. As we move along here, David says, press 1 for English. And Kimberly says, example, $200 a month in India for a call center job versus the US $2,000 to $24 a month, which is a company they worked for. Yeah. And again, in their economy, and that's what a lot of people fail to understand, in their economy, that's good money. Well, they can live really comfortable like that. In the US or in other Western nations, you couldn't. And that's why a lot of people say, what? So in such and such country, they only get paid 87 cents an hour? That's bullshit. Not if you live there. if you if you live there, that's great. If you live there, that's great. And that's kind of the point. That's kind of the point. Don't judge too harshly sometimes. As we shift around here, this follows up on something we were talking about last week with the new voter laws. Fox News article: Arizona to begin removing as many as 50,000 non-citizens from voter rolls following lawsuit. Why did you have 50,000 people who were non-citizens registered to vote, Arizona? All 15 Arizona counties have now begun the process of verifying and removing non-citizens from their voter rolls, including nearly 50,000 registrants who did not provide proof of U.S. citizenship. Why did you have to be taken to court to do that, Arizona? This settlement, quote, is a great result for all Arizonians, according to America First Legal. Arizonians, God. I guess what would the alternative be? Arizonites? Arizonians. AFL filed the lawsuit against the 15 Arizona counties last year on behalf of EasyAZ.org and Yvonne Cahill, a registered voter and naturalized citizen, arguing that the counties, had not been following a state law that requires proof of citizenship to vote in local and state elections, and that for the state to do monthly checks on the rolls for non-citizens. Again, it's just a matter of checking a box at the DMV. You got to ask, why don't they do it? As a result of the lawsuit, the 15 counties have now begun working with the Department of Homeland Security to verify the citizenship status of all registered voters in the state who failed to provide proof of citizenship. And this was already a law in the book, reaffirmed recently by the Trump administration with an executive order. Puck said somebody in an article said that a made in USA iPhone would be $3,500. You mean they don't already cost that much? Those phones are already ridiculously expensive. Nature Nerd said 50,000 non-U.S. citizens registered for voting in Arizona that could swing an election. And Baki said 50,000, that's an army's worth. For voters, or for what I was talking about with Hong Kong police and law enforcement? Because just in Hong Kong, I think it was a 4-hour period, combined law enforcement in Hong Kong were able to round up nearly 50,000 suspected triad members to interrogate them. I don't know if any actual arrests took place, but they can do that there. And I'm like, that's a lot of organization and a lot of law enforcement power. And it's a warning to any other country that doesn't think that their government could pull it off. Yes, the hell they can. There's more law enforcement out there than you realize. I got a taste of that, and I talked about that a lot when the biomat fire happened out in Conyers, out here in Georgia, and we couldn't get out. Every street you passed had anywhere from 2 to 4 law enforcement vehicles blocking that road for miles. Where the hell did they all come from? You wouldn't think there were that many law enforcement vehicles in the state. Oh, God. Puck says, I saw him. Oh, where am I? No, JJ. China also doesn't mind taking the loss in a specific industry until they annihilate all foreign competition. This thanks to government support. But again, why do you have that many non-citizens registered? Why do you have to go through a lawsuit to route that? Arizona. Arizona, who, by the way, also is on board with that whole 30 days to put up or shut up, self-deport yourself. Don't make us come and find you. Arizona is waving that banner. They're all for it. It was in the news briefs this morning. I don't have the story pulled up, but it was in the news briefs this morning. You can find it. But at the same time, you've got thousands of non-citizens registered to vote in your state. Incredible. Puck is telling us, because I had started it. I saw a man in the street interview where this liberal was complaining they had not removed 65,000 bogus voters, Harris would have won her state. Yeah, so by any means necessary, I guess, even if you cheat. Even if you cheat. Absolutely. I guess they would prefer to cheat. That by any means necessary attitude only applies with people like this if it's affecting someone else. Never if it's affecting them. So if someone had reversed that and cheated on the other end, they'd be up in arms over it. Molotov cocktails would be flying. Newsweek article. Here's your corruption. Department of Justice arrests Democrat lawmaker. Oh, say it isn't so. Massachusetts State Representative Christopher Flanagan, a Democrat for the 1st Barnstable District. Where the hell is the Barnstable District? I'm from Massachusetts. I never heard of it. Was indicted by the Department of Justice Friday by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Massachusetts in an alleged fraud and cover-up scheme. Flanagan's lawyer, Greg Henning, confirmed to Newsweek via email he will appear alongside Flanagan in court on Friday. Public officials' misconduct undermines post-trust. Oh, that's, I don't know what that is. That's some kind of AI gobbledygook. We'll skip that part. Flanagan, 37-year-old Dennis, Massachusetts resident, arrested Friday morning after a federal grand jury indicted him on 5 counts of wire fraud and 1 count of falsification of records. The indictment states Flanagan served as the executive officer of Home Builders Association in Cape Cod from 2019 to 2024. A trade organization which he is accused of defrauding by secretly withdrawing tens of thousands of dollars from entering false information in the HBA's financial bookkeeping records and providing false and misleading HBA financial information to the HBA's board. He was skimming. A chart of his reportedly stolen funds in the indictment shows that he stole $36,000 via wire transfer from November 2021 to January 2023. The indictment states a majority of these funds were used to pay personal mortgage, credit card debts, and $10,000 of it went to his own campaign fund for office. He's also accused of using funds to pay for personal psychic services. Oh, I love it. Psychic services, which were not conducted through transfer, but via direct debit transactions from the HBA. So he used the company credit card when he went to the palm reader. I love it. Some of the personal purchases also included an air conditioner, t-shirts supporting his political campaign, and other clothing. So he replaced his home's air conditioning unit too. I love it. Beyond the 5 wire fraud counts, the grand jury also indicted him on 1 count of falsifying documents related to a campaign flyer. The mailer from Conservatives for Dennis endorsed Flanagan, urging voters to vote the person, not the party. Yeah, you voted a crook. Flanagan reportedly obstructed Massachusetts Office of Campaign and Political Finance investigation by attributing the source of the mailer to a false persona named Jean Louise, whom he created for the endorsement. So he's got the pseudonym of Jean Louise, among other related actions. He has admitted that Jean Louise was fake and that he was the source of that mailer. Okay, Jean. Oh, no, I love it. Bookman says, if China collapses, do you think Hong Kong will be free? Oh, excuse me. They would like to be, and they consider themselves an independent government from, they considered, this is just cracking me up, this story. They consider themselves independent from China, even though China denies it. They've always run themselves independently. China has tried to crack down on them and found great difficulty in doing so. If we got to a Soviet Union era collapse, I could see Hong Kong breaking away and getting support from other countries in order to do so. I could see that happening. Incredible. Yeah, Kimberly, Dennis, Cape Cod area. Yep, there you go. There you go. Oh, JJ said he should ask the psychics for a refund. They didn't see his arrest coming. And Raccoon says, psychics, that's a first. I love that. I absolutely love that. I could just see him sitting there in front of the tarot card reader, putting it down. Ah, the fool. And then swiping the company card for it. That takes balls. I got to give it to Dennis. Using the company card for reading tea leaves and looking at crystal balls. That's fantastic. That is fantastic. I'm just kind of hung up on that. I think that's the best part of this story. Again, remember, guys, I don't always, most of the time, like 80% of the time, I have not proofread these stories. I didn't already read it. I'm reading it for the first time. And that just really, Paul says it was a prostitute. I don't know. That psychic might have a back room. A little happy ending psychic reading there. A new giving new meaning to palm reading. So a little palm reading and then a happy ending with some palm seeding, I guess. Oh no. Oh no. Nature Nerd says Arizona, California, and Texas have extra house seats because illegal immigrants are counted in the population consensus, even though they cannot vote. Yeah, and that shouldn't be. That shouldn't be. But that's just incredibly embarrassing. Bad enough he was stealing, used it for campaign funds, used it for his wardrobe, used it for T-shirts for his campaign, created a fake pseudonym to send mailers to people to pretend it wasn't him. That takes a lot of, again, that takes some real brass monkeys there. Monkey says, what you mean they're using the crystal ball to help with decision making? Yeah, and it's worked out great for the Democrat Party, hasn't it? Patriot says it was honestly the massage it was honestly this massage at the end that sealed the deal. Was it? That's why he kept going back. That's why he kept going back. Oh my God, these people are crazy. The fact that he would even believe a psychic in the first place. Oh my goodness. As we get ready to move along here, I got some more corruption for you. Where is this person a judge? Florida, I think. And this is an EUR Web article that I'm going to pull up here in a moment. EUR Web article. Psychics. He could have been buying drugs, I guess. Oh, Patriot, I'll put that up when I'm oh, Lucky, I'm sorry. Lucky, I'll put that up, but I don't know if I can read that one. incredible. EUR Web, Florida judge reprimanded and fined for courtroom behavior related to unresponsive lawyer. And there she is another diversity hire. Why does it look like her robes are way too big for her in this photo? You see this picture? They look gigantic unless she's just really thick under there. Her robes are huge. Okay, so, and that's Judge Stephanie Camille Moon. Stephanie Camille Moon. Florida judge is at the center of mixed opinions surrounding a recommendation to have her formally reprimanded for alleged ethical lapses in and out of the courtroom. Oh, not another DEI judge being unethical in court, please. According to the Daily Mail, the drama centers on Judge Stephanie Moon, who faces a public reprimand and a fine for allegedly mixing campaign politics with her courtroom authority and making improper political contributions while sitting on the bench. The case is now in the hands of the Florida Supreme Court, which is tasked with deciding whether to accept, reject, or modify the Judicial Qualifications Commission's recommendation. It is the decision of Moon, in the description of Moon's exploits, the commission labeled it inherently coercive and potentially damaging to public confidence in the judiciary. I hate to break it to you. People already don't trust the judiciary. Do you trust judges? I don't. Moon's legal dilemma stems from a confrontation between the judge and attorney Michael Jones that took place after a hearing and was captured on courtroom audio in February of 24. The incident was sparked when Moon questioned Jones on why he hadn't returned a call about joining Moon's re-election campaign committee. The call, which was on Moon's cell phone, was made in March after work hours. Jones was unavailable at the time of the call. Under Florida's judicial rules, a judge's outreach is allowed as long as it is limited, indirect, and kept strictly outside of the courtroom. Quote, "This is Judge Stephanie Moon. I hope you are well. I'm reaching out because I'm assembling my re-election committee, and I was wondering if you would be willing to serve. If you would kindly return my call, I greatly appreciate it," Moon said in a voicemail to Jones. At least she was cordial. I'll give her that much. She was cordial, but you can't do that while you're presiding. She was in open court on her cell phone conducting independent business. That's the problem. Tuck says you should have seen how many psychics had a bad December because they all told their fans Trump would lose. I bet. Well, sometimes the cards are wrong. It was the wrong spirit in the room. Wrong spirit. Flukeman said, how did she get past Ron DeSantis's net? Ron doesn't allow DEI. I don't know, but that was unprofessional, and that's really the problem here. Where are we? Describing Moon's actions as an inappropriate political activity, the commission cited the power imbalance created when a judge questions an attorney in open court about campaign support. The inherently coercive nature of the interaction could reasonably raise questions about the judge's impartiality. They're not impartial. That's the problem. That's one of the reasons why I don't trust judges, because they're not impartial. It's a very, very, you can see it right there. It says right there on her monitor that it's recording. This must be the courtroom recording here. So she was in open court when she did that on her cell phone. I don't trust judges. Most people don't. They are very political. It's a very political position, and many of their decisions are based on that because they're checking boxes instead of doing what's ethical or moral, which is the problem. JJ said, with most judges having a self-absorbed God complex, I can't imagine why people don't trust them. No kidding. Cap says, if we ever want to win a war with China, we would lose because of the fact we're lazy and stupid and we don't produce our own stuff, and all they would have to do is just wait for a little bit, militarily speaking. But yeah, they'll give her a citation or they'll give her a fine. It's not like she's going to lose her job. Again, I'm surprised that was actually very cordial. The way that she addressed the phone call, but in open court, highly inappropriate. Highly inappropriate. And I got one more for you here. This is out of left field, but it's the first time in a long time. Tuck wants to know what county. I don't know if it said what county, but it's in Florida. This is a Variety article. It's the first time in a long time I've seen Saturday Night Live back down. It's a Variety article. The White Lotus star Amy Lou Wood says that SNL's impersonation of her was mean and unfunny, and that it was a real shame. So the April 12th episode of Saturday Night Live just happened this weekend. A pre-taped spoof of the Mike White drama series, which starred Sarah Sherman as parodied version of Wood's character Chelsea on Sunday. Wood took to her Instagram stories to express her frustration with the portrayal, calling it mean and unfunny. Such a shame because I had such a great time watching it a couple of weeks ago, she writes. Yes, take the piss for sure. That's what the show is about, but there must be a cleverer, more nuanced, less cheap way. All they do is give piss, though. That's the problem. The sketch in question was aimed mostly at Donald Trump's inner circle as tariffs ravaged the global economy. It starred James Austin Johnson as the president, Chloe Finman as Melania Trump, Mikey Days as Donald Trump Jr., and John Hamm. Well, what happened? In one moment, Ham's RFK dressed as Walton Gogg's. Rick says, I've been having these insane ideas like, what if we took all the fluoride out of the drinking water? What would that do to people's teeth? The camera then reveals Sherman Chelsea sporting an exaggerated accent and enlarged false teeth. She responds, fluoride, what's that? Wood wrote that she received thousands of messages of support after posting her gripes with the late night sketch. Basically, and this is her, they're making fun of, she has a very prominent overbite. And JJ says the Florida judge was in Broward County. Thank you. She has a prominent overbite, and SNL made fun of it in a sketch that sounds like it was pretty boring anyways. What happened if they took the fluoride out of the water? You'd stop having poison running through your body, for one thing. Fluoride is not what's protecting your teeth. Oral hygiene practice is. You could get the same results with a dry brush. I'm not kidding. The fluoride, it does not need to be in the water, and states have been fighting against it for years. So they can make fun of that if they want to. But her, and by the way, Saturday Night Live, it doesn't say it in this article, Saturday Night Live has issued a public apology to her for this. She says it was mean and unfunny. That sums up the show for the last 20 years, sweetheart. Everything they do is mean and unfunny. Everything they do is political. Everything they do is social. They are cruel. They're not funny. It's an awful show. It has been for years. It hasn't been relative for at least 20 years. For at least 2 decades, maybe more. There's been a huge shift. She says, I get it. Sometimes you have to take their piss. All they do is pour piss out on people. That's all that show does anymore. It's an awful show. Flukeman says toothpaste is a waste of money. It doesn't hurt to use the toothpaste. You do want to get rid of some of the bacteria, but you sure don't need fluoride in it. You sure don't need the fluoride in it. Peter says tooth health more related to diet and nutrition. I'm going to do a video on that. I did one on oral health once before, and YouTube took it down. Puck says leftists think calling someone a Nazi is comedy. They've been humorless for decades. I agree. The show's really horrible. And she called them out on it, but this time they actually backed down. They actually backed down and apologized to her, apparently. So here's your debt clock. See where we are at here with Doge projections currently at $317 billion. And it looks like they might hit 318 by tonight. Debt clock still ticking away, but it is moving a lot slower. That is a lot slower than where it was a few months ago. And that's good to see. That's really good to see. Tariffs is still about the same at about 659 billion. But again, they really haven't gone into effect. Kimberly says, don't forget the fluoride drops prescribed to children when you discuss it later. Yeah, right. Hey, they used to go around with cups full of fluoride and make kids rinse with it in school in the 70s. So with that, we are at the top of the hour, so I'll go ahead and start signing off. Again, you are listening to and or watching Coffee Talk, and you can find the live portion Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on YouTube, on Coffee Talk and Prepper University. You can find me on X at Coffee Talk Chat. You can find me on fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta. So thank you, everybody, for joining us here today. As always, hope you got something out of the conversation. And we will catch you again tomorrow.